Behind the missiles and headlines, 92 million people are trapped in a war nobody asked for, bombed from the sky and silenced by their own government. Iran has been under a near total internet blackout since February 28, 2026, cutting civilians off from the world. What you are about to see is pieced together from voice memos, smuggled messages, and rare footage revealing the hidden lives behind the explosions. At 6:35 Coordinated Universal Time on February 28, 2026, the first wave of missiles streaked toward Iran. Within minutes, explosions shattered the morning calm in Tehran, Kermanshah, Minab, Lamerd, and beyond. The assault was surgical and overwhelming. Hundreds of targets struck in rapid sequence. Military compounds, air defense sites, and government buildings erupted in fire and debris. By 6:45, Israeli jets joined the barrage, launching the largest sortie in their history, while American bombers and naval assets unleashed tomahawks and guided munitions from the Gulf and Mediterranean. In Tehran, the seat of power convulsed. Iranian state media fell silent as government networks went dark. Senior officials vanished from public view, and rumors spread of casualties among the country's leadership. With each detonation, the machinery of government faltered. Command centers lost contact with regional outposts. In Kermanshah, missile batteries were reduced to twisted metal. Near Minab and Lamerd, civilian neighborhoods suffered collateral damage as the shockwaves rippled outward. As the strikes expanded, the familiar rhythms of daily life collapsed. Cell towers flickered off. Public transport ground to a halt. Emergency sirens blared, but confusion reigned. By sunrise, Tehran's skyline was scarred by plumes of black smoke. In the chaos, no one knew who was in charge. The president's office issued no statements. The supreme leader's compound was reportedly hit, but there was no confirmation, only silence and speculation. At 9:05, Iranian forces retaliated with missile barrages toward Israel and US bases across the region. The world watched for a response, but inside Iran, ordinary people faced a new kind of uncertainty. The internet blackout deepened, cutting millions off from news, loved ones, and the outside world. In the vacuum left by shattered authority and broken communication, fear and rumor filled the streets. The old order for a moment seemed to have vanished, leaving 90 million people suspended between bombardment and silence. In the early hours of February 28, the reality of war arrived not at the front lines, but in places meant for safety, classrooms, sports halls, and homes. In Minab, a missile struck Shajara Tayyibeh Girls' Elementary School during morning lessons. The blast killed nearly 180 children, according to Iranian media, leaving behind shoes, backpacks, and silence. In Lamerd, a sports hall filled with girls at practice became another target. 18 civilians died there, their families left with only the memory of ordinary routines cut short. These numbers, recited on state television and whispered through blocked phone lines, struggled to capture the devastation. Survivors describe scenes of chaos, parents running toward collapsed buildings, rescue workers digging through dust and concrete, the air thick with disbelief. For many, there was no warning, only the sudden roar of impact and the desperate search for loved ones. In Tehran, the threat felt different but no less real. Each evening, as sirens faded and rumors of new strikes circled, families gathered in candlelit rooms. One mother, a teacher by profession, taped her apartment windows against shattering glass and led her children through a nightly ritual, blankets in the hallway, water bottles and shoes kept close, whispered prayers for the morning. She kept a list of neighbors' phone numbers by the door, though the lines rarely worked. Her youngest son asked if the war would come to their building. She told him, "We will stay together. We will stay safe." Across the city, communities imperfinated. Apartment blocks organized lookout shifts on stairwells. Shopkeepers handed out bread and canned goods to those stranded by the chaos. In the absence of information, people relied on each other, sharing fragments of news, comfort, and hope. Each act, no matter how small, became a way to push back against the sense of helplessness that war brings. The violence was sudden, but the struggle to endure was quiet, determined, and deeply human. By mid-morning on February 28th, the digital heart of Iran stopped beating. Internet traffic, measured in real time by global networks, plunged to just 4% of normal levels. Messaging apps stalled, social feeds froze, and the last whispers of outside contact faded into static. For more than 25 days, this blackout persisted, longer and deeper than any in Iran's history. The silence was not accidental. Authorities severed the national information network, cutting even domestic connections. Only a handful of websites remained accessible, each handpicked by officials and approved for public view. For most Iranians, the world shrank to a narrow corridor of state news and government portals. Even online banking and basic services sputtered, leaving families unable to check on loved ones or access money. Attempts to break through, including satellite links, VPNs, and smuggled Starlink terminals, were hunted down. Security forces jammed GPS signals, turning satellite internet into a lifeline riddled with holes. Some users reported up to 80% data loss, while others described the experience as a dying breath of communication. Warnings spread that possessing a satellite device could mean arrest. Meanwhile, a select few, government ministers, security chiefs, and senior diplomats retained full access. The foreign minister, appearing on a video call with Western media, explained that he needed the internet because he was the voice of Iranians. For nearly 90 million others, there was only silence. Without access to news or each other, rumors multiplied. Was the supreme leader alive? Had entire cities fallen? With every hour, the blackout magnified fear and confusion. Parents sent children to school without knowing if danger had passed. Shopkeepers waited for deliveries that never came. In the absence of information, even the smallest decisions, where to find bread, whether to seek shelter, how to comfort a frightened child, became acts of guesswork. The blackout did more than isolate. It erased voices, erased evidence, and left an entire country to face war in the dark. The day after the missiles fell, the Tehran Stock Exchange opened to a sea of red. In just 4 days, the main index lost 450,000 points. Each tick downward erased savings, pensions, and the fragile hopes of families who had already weathered years of inflation and sanctions. For small business owners, the pain was immediate and personal. Online sales, once a lifeline, collapsed overnight, an 80% drop across the country. On the edge of the city, a young woman named Sahar watched her Instagram jewelry shop vanish in a single morning. Before the blackout, she handled dozens of orders a week, packing silver earrings and delicate bracelets for customers as far as Shiraz and Tabriz. Now, her messages sat unsent, her payment app frozen by the blackout, her inventory gathering dust on a kitchen table. She said it was like the world stopped. She said she could not sell, she could not buy, she could not even check if her money was safe. The official numbers only hint at the scale of loss. The Minister of Communications admitted the shutdown was costing Iran $35.7 million every day. In February, internet prices climbed another 18%, squeezing families already struggling to afford basics. Across the city, shopkeepers closed their shutters. Cafes emptied out. Taxi drivers waited hours for a single fare. For many, the crisis was not just about bombs or blackouts, but about watching years of work and saving disappear in a matter of days. The currency, already battered, lost more ground. Even those with cash found they could not move it, could not trust the banks, could not plan for tomorrow. In living rooms and market stalls, the question was the same. How do you survive when your livelihood is cut off, not by a missile, but by silence? When the bombs stopped falling, fear did not. In Tehran, the sound of missile strikes was replaced by the low rumble of motorcycles, Basij patrols circling neighborhoods long after curfew. At dusk, uniformed men blocked alleyways, checking IDs, sweeping through apartment blocks, and questioning anyone caught outside. Unmarked vans idled on street corners. Families whispered about neighbors who vanished after midnight knocks, some for sharing banned messages, others for nothing at all. Text warnings arrived on silent phones. Spreading rumors is a crime. Stay home. Obey orders. The message was clear, even as the network flickered on and off. One woman whose brother was taken from his home in the Haft-Etir district described the waiting. She said he went out to buy bread. He never came back. They won't tell us where he is or if he's alive. Every day we listen for his voice, but there is only silence. Shops that survived the airstrikes now closed early, their shutters marked with spray paint, sometimes a warning, sometimes a threat. In some districts, Basij units checked phones for forbidden apps or foreign contacts. A single post, a forwarded video, could mean arrest. In the markets, people spoke in code, glancing over their shoulders, trading news as if it were contraband. The sense of being watched seeped into daily life, even behind closed doors. Parents told children not to answer questions at school, not to repeat what they heard at home. With every night, the city shrank. Curfews grew longer. The lines between enemy and neighbor blurred. For many, the war was not just the sound of explosions, but the knock at the door, the missing family member, the knowledge that survival meant silence. In the weeks after the first strikes, Iran's youngest generation faced dangers that reached far beyond the front lines. Classrooms, once places of routine and safety, became reminders of loss. Reports from humanitarian organizations and scattered local sources point to a toll that is difficult to comprehend. By mid-March, at least 210 children had been killed. Their lives ended in places meant for learning and play. More than 500 schools and 236 clinics now stand gutted or reduced to rubble, their walls blackened and silent. Each absence ripples outward, leaving families and entire neighborhoods searching for meaning in the aftermath. The destruction of these spaces forced families to make impossible choices. In cities like Kermanshah and Minab, parents gathered what they could carry and joined the steady flow north. Some walked for days, others waited for crowded buses or hitched rides toward the Turkish border. Humanitarian agencies estimate 3.2 million people have been displaced, with border posts recording over 1,300 crossings into Turkey each day. These journeys are marked by hardship, shelters overflowing, water growing scarce, and children falling ill from exposure and exhaustion. One family from Lamerd, a mother and her 3 children, spent 4 nights in an abandoned warehouse outside Urmia. The youngest, barely 6, clung to a faded schoolbook salvaged from their home. She asked when they would go back. Her mother could only promise that they would stay together, even if the meaning of home had changed forever. Across the country, the faces of the displaced tell a story that statistics cannot. Every child lost, every family forced to flee, is a reminder that war's true cost is measured not in headlines, but in the futures stolen from those who survive. In the silent aftermath of the blackout, lines of communication did not vanish completely, they simply went underground. Exiled activists in Europe and North America became lifelines, piecing together glimpses of the crisis from inside Iran. One activist living in Berlin described the daily ritual of waiting for a single ping from Tehran. A voice memo, a photo, a coded scrap of text slipped through the cracks. Messages arrived in bursts, sometimes routed through smuggled satellite terminals or borrowed foreign SIM cards. Devices passed hand to hand at great risk. To verify what little escaped, networks of friends and family used secret hashtags and time-stamped phrases, proving a message's origin. When Starlink kits surfaced in Tehran's suburbs, people coordinated drop-offs through trusted couriers, camouflaging terminals in boxes of rice or beneath car seats. Each successful connection was fleeting, A few minutes of raw, unfiltered truth before the signal vanished and danger returned. These fragments, stitched together, allowed the outside world to witness the blackout's true cost, even as the government's silence deepened. The struggle to be heard, to bear witness, became its own form of resistance. Inside Tehran's Grand Bazaar, silence has replaced the usual chorus of bargaining voices and clinking tea glasses. Once, these halls echoed with laughter and poetry readings, merchants debating prices beneath arches older than the city itself. Now many shops stand shuttered, their owners gone or waiting in the dark for news that never comes. In the city's backstreets, cafes that served as gathering spots for students and artists have emptied out, their walls scarred by tremors from distant explosions. Reports confirm that several UNESCO-recognized heritage sites have suffered damage, tiles shattered, calligraphy blackened by smoke, centuries-old woodwork splintered by the shockwaves. A local painter, who once led workshops in a gallery near the National Museum, describes tracing cracks along the walls after every air raid. "It's not just buildings," she says. "It's the memory of every story told here, every secret meeting, every song." Volunteers have tried to shield mosaics with sandbags and plastic sheeting, but most know they are fighting a losing battle. Each loss is more than material. It is a wound to the city's identity, a slow erasure of the places that hold its spirit. Where the world sees maps and headlines, people here mourn the fading colors of their own history. Long after the last explosion, the wounds of war remain hidden beneath the surface. In a quiet apartment in Tehran, a writer keeps a diary by candlelight. Each page is crowded with fragments, memories of crows gathering on the balcony, the echo of sirens, the hollow ache of waiting for news that never comes. He writes not of battles, but of sleepless nights and the faces of neighbors who have vanished. For many, the blackout is not just a loss of connection, but a kind of exile within their own homes. In the city's hospitals, rescue workers move from one emergency to the next, their hands raw from digging through rubble, their eyes rimmed with exhaustion. One nurse describes the silence that follows each air raid, the moment when survivors covered in dust search for familiar voices in the dark. Staff shortages grow as colleagues burn out or disappear, leaving those who remain to shoulder impossible burdens. Some speak of a new kind of trauma, the shock that crashes in when the internet flickers back and a flood of missed messages reveals the scale of loss all at once. Across Tehran, these quiet struggles accumulate. The pain is not always visible, but it shapes every gesture, every conversation. In a country silenced by war and blackout, the heaviest scars are often the ones no one can see. Ships packed with crude oil, grain, and consumer goods now sit motionless off the coast of Iran. The Strait of Hormuz, just 39 kilometers wide at its narrowest, has become a choke point for the world's lifeblood. On any given day, nearly a fifth of global oil passes through these waters. After the strikes, that flow slowed to a trickle. Oil prices soared past $120 a barrel within hours, sending shockwaves through markets from Tokyo to London. 9 grain ships bound for Africa and South Asia remain stranded. More than 20,000 seafarers wait aboard their vessels, cut off from shore, unsure when or if they will be allowed to move. The world's supply chains, so often invisible, now depend on the fate of a narrow channel and the lives of those trapped between warring states. Every stalled cargo, every empty fuel tank is a reminder. No one is untouched by this crisis. Outside Iran, exiled political figures tried to shape the world's response. Reza Pahlavi, living in Europe, called for a national referendum to decide the future government, insisting that any aid or recognition should depend on the will of the Iranian people. Rival coalitions, each claiming to represent the true opposition, circulated statements and drafted proposals. In Washington, a 15-point plan for humanitarian corridors and interim governance failed to gain traction. No consensus, no clear path forward. Relief agencies waited for approval that never came, caught between foreign governments and fractured Iranian voices. With every delay, the prospect of coordinated aid faded. For millions inside Iran, hope for outside help remained just out of reach, suspended in diplomatic deadlock. Today, as internet blackouts and air raid sirens define daily life for millions, the world's silence grows heavier than any bomb. For mothers shielding children, writers risking words, and families split by borders, war is not theory. It is each hour survived in the dark. Their struggle isn't distant, it's the measure of our shared humanity. What will we choose to see, and who will we refuse to forget?